In this video, I want to talk about 5 simple ways to lead a more productive life. So this is actually part of my productivity series. This is part 3 out of 3. If you want to watch the rest of them, I'll have that linked in the description down below. In this video, we are going to talk about what you need to be doing to be more productive so that you can do all the cool things that you want to do and also just be the most productive version of yourself. So I feel like a lot of other videos about productivity are very focused on productivity hacks. This is less focused on hacks. This is more focused on the more important side of productivity, which is actually spending your time on the right kind of things so that you're getting the most out of the time that you're spending. Because no matter how many productivity hacks you actually implement, it won't really make a difference if you're not working on the right things. So my first tip in this video is to deprioritize urgency. So to sort of summarize this tip, what I'm saying is every day when you pick what you're gonna do for the day, you should really ask yourself the question, what impact will doing this have on me in 1 year and 5 years time? And if the answer is it won't really have that much of an impact on you in 1 to 5 years time, you're probably working on the wrong thing. You're probably prioritizing the urgent over the important. We all know it's the Eisenhower matrix, but I want to sort of simplify it in this tip. So when you're writing a to-do list or you're just picking what you want to do for your day, it is super easy to default back to the urgent. These are the things that are kind of like screaming in your face that you're like, okay, I need to get that done. Like pick that thing up from the grocery store, or send an email back to that person, or message that person back because they messaged you like last night and you really need to get back to them. Those are the things that you tend to prioritize as urgent in your mind, and often they float to the top of your to-do list. Whereas the things that are actually important, the things that are going to impact you in 1 year's time, in 5 years' time, things like sitting down and actually creating your budget, sorting out your finances, or finally starting to work on that Etsy store that you've been planning on working on for so long, that can more easily float underneath the urgent, and you spend so much time doing the urgent that you never get to the important. So in order to create a more productive life, when you're creating your to-do list or you're deciding what you want to do for the day, pick the things that are going to have the most impact over the long term. And if you find yourself floating back towards those more urgent tasks, scientists or researchers have found that a way to nullify that effect is to think less about the time frame and actually focus on the outcome of the tasks that are in front of you. They've also found that the more that you perceive yourself as a busy person, so that's like really part of your identity, you're a person that's just always so busy, then the more likely you are to focus on the urgent tasks. I just thought that that was interesting. So my second piece of advice on how to lead a more productive life is to rethink your to-do list. So every day you want to sit down and you want to actually imagine yourself at the end of the current day or the next day if you're planning the night before. You want to imagine yourself having had the most successful day, like it went awesome, you got all the things done that you wanted to, or you knocked off those really big tasks, and then you want to ask yourself, what is the most important task that I got done that made me feel so successful at the end of the day? Then you want to ask yourself, what are 2 other things that if I did them would also make me feel really amazing? So after that, you actually want to write a little separate list, and this is a list of things that you can do if your energy is low or if you get the spare time. So this is the stuff that you can do like if all things go amazing, or if you hit like a plateau in the afternoon and you have no energy at all. These are the tasks that you want to be working on. This is the kind of stuff like booking your eyebrow appointment or popping down to the shops to grab that oven cleaner that you've been wanting for a hot second. So just little tasks, sort of life admin tasks basically, that you can get to should you have that low energy, or if you do happen to have spare time. I was actually recently listening to a podcast. It's the Story Brand podcast with Donald Miller. He's a really like executive CEO making millions of dollars. He follows the 3 to-do rule, which is what I've just talked about. And he actually said that it's pretty rare for him to ever get through a day where he completes all 3 to-dos. So I just want to put that out there for those of you who find you set these big 3 milestones that you want to reach in your day and you don't find that you get through all of them, like that's okay. People who are making millions of dollars with crazy big companies are also experiencing the same thing. So really your most important thing that you set for the day should be the one thing that if you got only that done, you would be content. My next piece of advice is to do a time audit. So to do a time audit, you want to actually actually get a piece of paper. You want to write down your times during the day, so like a little schedule of your day. And then every hour or every half hour, you want to check in. You want to write what you're doing. You want to write where your energy is at. And you want to write down how engaged you feel in what you're doing. If you do a time audit for just a week, you are going to find out a lot more about how to be a more productive person than you will just watching this video. Like, you'll deep dive into your productivity. It's kind of like being your own productivity coach and learning the ins and outs of yourself. So do that for about a week, and by the end of the week, you are going to have a list of things that you know drain you, because you're going to start to see patterns throughout your week that indicate what things are not working for you in your life. So with that list of things that drain you, there are a few questions that you want to ask yourself. The first being, does this actually need to be done? Like, if it's a group study session, but you're really introverted and you actually study better on your own, then it's probably not a thing that you need to keep on doing. You can opt out of that. It's easy. Secondly, you want to ask yourself, could someone else be doing it? So if it's like a housework thing, but you live with a bunch of other people, can you swap with them? If it's taking care of emails, is there a way for you to hire out a virtual assistant or ask a family member to help you? If you have the ability to delegate, the general rule is if someone else can do it 80% as well as you, then you should pass it along. But obviously, in every situation, you don't always have the ability to delegate. So if that's the case, it's something you have to do, you can't delegate it, then you want to ask yourself, how can you make this easier for you to do? If there's something that's draining you and it's something that you actually have to do on a weekly or just a regular basis, figure out how to make it the easiest it could possibly be so that you're not so drained by it. You don't have to give it so much time and so much energy. So if you're always getting like the same questions from your customers, but it really drains you to constantly answer, can you chuck up a sign somewhere? Can you put up a really clear FAQ page or send out an email? Or if you always feel a little bit unsure about what you're doing when you put together those proposals, is there a way that you can create like a little playlist of prompts for you to consider when you're putting together those proposals to make it easier? With stuff like this, I always go back to like systems, templates, processes, checklists. That's the kind of stuff that you want to implement for stuff that you really don't enjoy doing, but you have no choice about doing. Just make it as easy for yourself as possible with all of those things. So the fourth change that you want to make in your life to be a more productive human is to juggle really nicely the doer version of you and the CEO version of you. Because in your life, you are a mixture of the two. So CEO activities are things like reflecting on your life, creating a plan of action, setting your goals for the next quarter, thinking through how you feel. Doing some journaling really is a CEO kind of activity. Doer activities are exactly what they sound like. So it's actually putting those goals into action, like contacting that person. It's also like your life admin. The general day-to-day of your life is you in doer mode. If you want to live a more productive life, a more successful life, you can't be all CEO, or probably what's more common, which is all doer. You need to have time carved out in your schedule for CEO time. You need to have time carved out in your schedule for doer time. And there needs to be a nice, good balance. So when I say CEO time, what I mean is some time for weekly reflection, some time where you set aside a day every month to plan your month, or your quarter probably is more realistic. And your doer time is where you want to get intentional about blocking out time for your most important doer tasks. So for me, most important doer tasks are creating videos and connecting with you guys, or writing and working on my most important goals. So having those times carved out specifically to do the most important doer tasks is going to get me forward in life a whole lot more. So the next change that you can make to your life in order to be a more productive human is to change the way that you spend your breaks, to change the things that you do on breaks. Your breaks are really a key part of your productivity, and it's something that not most people talk about. There are a lot of productivity hacks for when you're actually doing the work. You got the Pomodoro timer, all of that kind of stuff. There's not really many people talking about how to rest more effectively. Where reality is if you learn how to rest more effectively, you're going to be a far more productive human being because of it. And if you're not resting well, you're not doing your best work. So when you're choosing how to rest, so what you do in your lunch breaks or what you do in your little 10-minute breaks between working, try to choose things that are outside in nature, because that's the most reinvigorating for you. Ideally, you actually want to rest with another person. That can be the most refreshing. However, if you're resting with another person, so taking a lunch break with a colleague, for example, example, you actually want to steer away from the topic of work, because otherwise it won't feel like a rest at all. You're not going to feel super reinvigorated when you get back to your desk and need to start doing things. So all of those things combined are really what you should be doing when you take a break during your day. But I also have an entire video that is all about rest and talks a little bit more about the optimum ways to rest and get relaxation in your days so that you're the most productive. I'm going to have that linked up here, and I'm going to have it linked down. So I'm going to have that video linked on the screen, and I'm going to have it linked down below. If you do want to watch the rest of this series, the productivity series, this is part 3 out of 3, then I'm going to have that linked down below as well. There's a lot of things for you to watch in the description. I appreciate you guys so much, and I will see you soon.